Hello, it's the Coaster Craze, and today I'll be reviewing one of the wildest roller coasters I've ever had ridden, and that would be Swamp Fox at Family Kingdom in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, United States. So this is one of the few boardwalk wooden roller coasters left in the USA, and it is a pretty crazy ride, and I'm so glad I had the chance to ride it. As you can see here, I'm just going to show you my first initial thoughts after my first ride on it, and it kind of sums up, but of course I'm going to go more in depth in this review.
Wow, so I've heard back row on Swamp Fox is one of the craziest coaster experiences, and wow, they weren't kidding. This is probably one of the most traumatic and exciting roller coaster experiences I've ever had. Like, usually I'm not scared, like legitimately scared of roller coasters, but I was.
So as you can tell, I was clearly affected by this ride, and I'm glad it wasn't just your standard mediocre, classic wooden coaster, but instead kind of rose above it and sometimes below it. So I'm going to start with the theming, and there's none. It's called Swamp Fox. It's basically like Confederate slang or something from the Civil War. It was a term for certain soldiers, and it fits the area in the South. I kind of like that when it fits the region, but there's no theming at all. But it does have a cool looking classic station that I loved, and it was empty when I was there, so it was great to just walk on and ride. I rode 2 rides on it. First time I rode back row, and the second time I rode front row and actually recorded POV 2, which you'll be seeing throughout this video. And so going on to the layout, so basically you go up the lift hill, you make a turnaround, and I love that they made the lift hill facing the Atlantic Ocean. This is at Myrtle Beach, and it's right on the water, so that was really scenic and beautiful. You turn around, go down a decently steep but not very large drop, then up into some Airtime hills, a turnaround, some more Airtime hills, one more turnaround, and then you're basically at the station. So it's a very simple out and back coaster layout. The statistics are fairly average for an old wooden coaster, maybe slightly below average for the more modern wooden coasters. They're not super impressive, and that's not really the point of these coasters. They're not trying to be super impressive with their stats. It really depends on just how strong the airtime is and how comfortable of a ride experience they are. Because these coasters are fairly standard. That's going to be the big deciding factor that separates this from, let's say, Comet at Hershey Park or many others old-fashioned wooden coasters that honestly don't have a ton of variety. And this one I think is really awesome. So I'm going to start with talking about the airtime, and oh my gosh, every hill delivers insane ejector. And that's in part because the seatbelts are kind of like what I've heard Phoenix at Knoebels is like, where the lap bars only go down to way above your knees. They only go down to the seat divider, so you have a lot of room, and sometimes I feel like I was just gonna fly out because I could almost stand up. It felt like I was getting that standing airtime that I've never actually experienced before, and that was insane, particularly in the back row for my first ride. I'd been warned not to ride in the back row, but I don't really listen to warnings, and that was pretty insane. It was so rough. I mean, the cushioned seats are very comfortable. I think the restraints are great, but the coaster's insanely rough and jerky, and I was bouncing up and down like crazy. It didn't give me a headache or anything, but it just hurt my body overall, physical pain, and that also delivered a very fun rush, because I was getting insane airtime, and just starting over that drop, you're flinged over each drop, and that was great. And maybe the turnarounds give slight, just a quick break from, the craziness, but not a ton. This coaster was mostly non-stop action, which is very surprising for a roller coaster from the early 1960s. And that back row ride, though somewhat enjoyable in some capacities, it was also kind of horrifying and something I wouldn't want to ride again. But my sister I knew rode in the front row that day, and she said it wasn't, absolutely terrible, though she wasn't a big fan. So I was curious to try it in the front row on my POV time, and that was a much better ride experience. Yes, it was still very rough, and maybe the airtime wasn't nearly as insane, but it was still pretty insane, and honestly, I didn't need it to be any more insane than it was in the front row. I was still getting flung out of my seat like crazy, and that was really exciting. I mean, the POV is insanely rough, as you can see. I was getting thrown around a lot, but nevertheless, it wasn't as painful, and I thought that really improved the ride. And if I didn't get that front row ride, I'd probably be much more negative about Swamp Fox, but thanks to that front row ride, I kind of have a much more optimistic outlook on this coaster, and I can really see all of its pros outweighing its cons. The intensity is so much there. I mean, this isn't about the laterals at all. They're pretty tame, the laterals. This is all about the intense negative G-force on the drops and the airtime hills. That's absolutely ridiculous. So for my overall score for Swamp Fox, This was a very hard coaster to rate because of its tendency to be very painful, yet still a standout ride. So, for my overall score, this is probably one of the best wooden coasters I've ever ridden, and for the classic wooden coasters, it's pretty superior. But in the grand scheme of coasters, this isn't one of the best rides, so I'm giving it a very, very solid 7 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this detailed review of Swamp Fox at Family Kingdom. Comment down below your opinions on the ride if you've ridden it, and also comment any suggestions for future reviews. Make sure to like and subscribe for more awesome coaster videos coming soon. There are going to be more frequent uploads with school ending. I hope you enjoy this video. This is the Coaster Craze signing out. Goodbye.